In any democracy, there's this really fragile line between politics and law. But what happens when that line doesn't just get blurry but feels like it's vanishing altogether? Well, here in the United States, that's not some academic question anymore. It's pretty much at the center of our entire national conversation. And it forces us to ask something pretty fundamental. Is justice truly blind? We're all taught that it's supposed to be. But in this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers on that ideal and take a hard look at the complicated reality of how power, politics, and the law actually mix. Okay, so first up, let's talk about how it's supposed to work, the ideal separation. In theory, the whole system is built on a really simple idea. Law and politics should operate in their own distinct spaces. The separation is meant to be the very bedrock of the entire structure. So think of it like this. On one side, you've got the law. That's the neutral rule book, right? It's supposed to guarantee justice and equality for everyone, totally impartial. And on the other side, you've got politics. That's the arena, the competitive space where different ideas and interests battle it out for power. One provides the rules of the game, the other is the game itself. Yeah, but that neat and tidy separation, that's just the theory. The reality is, well, it's a lot messier. So the really crucial question becomes, what happens when these lines start to blur? Let's dive into that first with how politics shapes the law. Because really, the first way these lines get crossed is when intense political pressure starts getting applied directly to our legal system. And there's no better example of this than the Supreme Court. I mean, even though the justices are supposed to be these impartial interpreters of the Constitution, their rulings create massive political shockwaves. These decisions don't just define our rights, they can literally determine elections and completely change the balance of power in the country. Just think about the biggest, most divisive issues we're dealing with today. Rulings on abortion rights, immigration policy, voting laws. All of these are being decided in courtrooms, but they're also the absolute core of our political battlegrounds, shaping everything from who wins elections to what our national identity even is. But here's the thing, it's not just a one-way street. The influence goes the other way too. The legal system itself can be turned into a weapon, a tool to be used in the political arena. And this process, it often follows a pretty clear path. It usually kicks off with some kind of political dispute. Pretty soon, both sides start using the language of the law to make their case and justify their positions. And then bam, the courtroom itself becomes the new battlefield, maybe for an impeachment or a major investigation. The goal isn't just winning a case anymore. It's about shaping public opinion and controlling the entire political story. You see, this constant push and pull isn't really a bug in the system. You could almost say it's a core feature of democracy, but it's a feature that comes with incredibly high stakes, which brings us to the risks and, of course, the safeguards. The risk here is profound. When politics just completely overwhelms the law, justice starts to look like just another power play. And when that happens, the credibility of our institutions, it just crumbles. Public trust evaporates, and the whole system starts to feel weak. But, and this is so important, this is also where we find this safeguard. Because when our legal institutions manage to stand firm and resist that partisan pressure, they send a really powerful message that the rule of law is still the foundation of our society. Every single time the system holds, it doesn't just survive, it actually gets stronger. And what all this really boils down to is an ongoing challenge. This tension, this friction between law and politics, it's not a problem that we can just solve. It's a permanent feature of a democratic system, a constant balancing act that every single generation has to figure out how to navigate. The whole struggle is to make sure that the law doesn't just become, as this says, a mere extension of political power, but that it stays a safeguard. It's about keeping the law as a shield that protects everyone, not a sword for the powerful. So, at the end of the day, we're all left with this huge, crucial question. In this incredibly delicate balance, how do we, as citizens, make sure that our legal system stays a safeguard for all of us and doesn't just become another tool for those in power? The answer to that, well, it's going to define the future of our democracy.